In Lesson 2, we learned about rhythmic motifs. If you recall, a motif is a combination of notes that form a short, recurring musical idea or theme, which characterizes a piece or section of music. Motifs can be rhythmic, melodic, or harmonic in nature. In this lesson, we will be learning about the melodic motif. With rhythmic motifs, we observed that the short, recurring musical ideas involved the durations of the notes. With melodic motifs, the short, recurring musical ideas involve the pitches of the notes. Let's take a look at some examples of melodic motifs so that we can get a better idea of what is meant here. In the following diagram, we can see that the first measure contains a repeated note followed by a rising major third, C to E. In the second measure, there is also a repeated note, followed by a rising major third, F to A. This pattern of repeated note followed by a rising major third is the short, recurring musical idea. It is the melodic motif. Since melody cannot be separated from rhythm, most melodic motifs will coincide with the rhythmic motifs. In the following diagram, the melodic motif, repeated note followed by a rising major third, goes hand in hand with the rhythmic motif, two quarter notes followed by a half note. It is not a necessity that the rhythmic motif remains the same with each reoccurrence of the melodic motif. In fact, oftentimes a melodic motif will be repeated using a different rhythm as a means of developing or varying the motif. Here's an example. As you can see, we have changed the duration of the first two notes in the second measure. The melodic motif remains the same in each measure, a repeated note followed by a rising major third, but the rhythmic motif has been altered from 2 quarters and a half to a dotted quarter, eighth and a half. Let's listen to each example. Here's the first. Here's the altered motif. When a melodic motif is restated, the interval quality can be different. The interval number, however, must be the same. In other words, a melodic motif can consist of a major third and then reoccur with a minor third. But it cannot first occur with a third and then reoccur with a fourth. There are exceptions to this, which you will learn about when we study the development of motifs. In this lesson and the assignments for this lesson, we will only be dealing with motifs that reoccur with the same interval number. Let's look at an example that will help illustrate this. If you look closely, you will notice that the original melodic motif is a falling major third, G to E flat, whereas the reoccurring melodic motif is a falling minor third, F to D. Although the quality of the interval changed, the restatement of the motif was still a third. If the restatement of the motif had used some other interval, such as a fourth or a fifth, it would have been a development or variation of the motif, which as mentioned earlier will be studied in another lesson. You are almost ready to begin your lesson assignments. Again, because rhythm and melody are tied together, you will need to come up with rhythmic motifs at the same time that you are coming up with melodic motifs. Use the same rules and techniques that you used to create rhythmic motifs in Lesson 2. Here they are for your review. Shorter is better. Motifs are generally anywhere from 2 to 8 notes in length. Motifs are usually best when they contain at least 2 or more different note durations.